like started teaching third grade, I think, and I was in fourth,
Oh, okay.
something like that. He was there a long
He
time.
put in. He put in longer than almost
Who are you talking about?
Bill Worrell.
Yeah.
Huh.
Why were you there, Barry?
Why was that again?
You were in Treat Maria?
I was in school.
He was a fourth grader.
That's how long Bill held.
All right. Well, it's been nice having you guys start the show with the chit chat, but I'm going to do the official thing now. Hello and happy Friday, and thanks for tuning in to RadioFreeRhinecliff.org. And this show in particular, correct me if I'm Norm, I'm your host, Norm, and I'm so thrilled to be here tonight with Chantal Collins, Leslie Hill, and Barry Sherrod,
Yay.
Who've been doing this shit that we just started the show with, like nonstop since they got together, just reminiscing about their lives growing up in Rhinebeck. And each of you graduated Rhinebeck High?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't. I moved in ninth grade.
That's dropped out. She
Get
quit.
out of here.
Yeah.
I went south
Yeah.
to Putnam County.
Oh, Putnam County.
We made her an honorary.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But between the three of you, I'm just going to hazard a guess. It's been like 130 years of living in Rhinebeck.
Is that true?
Yeah.
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 I guess
Yeah.
I'm the old man here.
60
so,
for
yeah.
each of you and 10 for that one.
Yeah.
The juvenile. Before we went on, you were talking about this and then the other. You were talking about supermarkets and how at one point there were 3 supermarkets and 2 butcher stores and what else? Where were these supermarkets?
Well, we were talking about, what got us on that subject was how great it is as a retirement community living in Rhinebeck now for older folks. And I said, the one thing missing that we had when I was a kid was supermarkets. So we had the A&P supermarket, which was next to the bagel shop, which is now, is that still the mental health place?
No, it's engineers, I think.
That's right. It's an engineering office building. And then the Grand Union, which was where the CVS is now. And then there was a small 2-aisle store, IGA, right somewhere in the vicinity of where the Copper Kettle is now, or the
Copper Kettle.
it's not the Copper Kettle.
Pete's.
Pete's famous.
Yeah.
Pete's famous.
Used to be the Copper Kettle.
I'm guessing.
And was Copper
And
Kettle
Blondie is after
IGA or was IGA next to Copper
I
Kettle?
think it was next to it.
I think
Don't
so
you?
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
Okay.
this. I want to get with you later and draw a map
Yeah.
of old Rhinebeck from your memories.
Old Rhinebeck.
And what was the Copper Kettle?
It's what Pete's is. It was just a breakfast diner.
Right. A
Breakfast and
coffee
lunch.
shop.
Breakfast and lunch and
Yeah,
Skemmy's
coffee
was
shop.
across the street
And Skemmy's was across
where
the
Village
street.
Pizza is.
Yeah.
And when you were kids, where would your folks take you on special occasions?
Foster's.
Yeah.
Foster's.
Really?
Yeah.
And
Foster's.
was it a white tablecloth kind of place back then?
No, it was always a local horse equine oriented. Bob Kerwood was like really into horse racing and betting, and that was the whole theme of that place.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and it's always been that way. It's always been kind of a local watering hole.
Yeah. And so you all remembered Bob Kerwood, who was a legendary host.
Oh, Bob Kerwood lived 3 houses down the road from me growing up.
Uh-huh.
And he drove a big yellow Eldorado convertible down our road about 60 miles an hour. We live on a back road, and he was like, we'd be out there playing softball on the road, and you'd hear him coming, and everybody'd
Run.
scatter to get out of the way because he didn't slow down. And you have his hair back and the top down on the Eldorado, and he just steaming through.
I love that. Yeah, from what people say, he sounds like a real sort of old town character.
Yeah,
Very much so.
yeah.
Uh-huh. Huh. And what road did you live on that he was driving 60 miles an hour down?
Oh, I'm probably exaggerating. Probably wasn't 60. Probably was 50 though. Old Albany Post Road, which was runs right behind where the state police barracks is now.
Right.
On the 4 lanes.
Uh-huh.
That was the main road, Route 9, way back in the 30s until they put the 4 lanes in.
So Old Albany Post Road was 9.
That was Route 9.
And then the 4 lanes sort of circumvented that.
Yeah.
Do you know so many new people don't know what the 4 lanes are?
Right.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
they don't, right?
Yeah. You say the 4 lanes, they're like, what is that?
I'm a new person. It was a real rite of passage when I'm like, oh, the 4 lanes. I
Oh.
can drop that into conversation.
Before we go any further, I have to give a shout out to my wife, Kelly, who's supposedly listening to this.
Hello, Kelly.
Hi, Kelly.
Yeah, I hope if she figured out how to get here on radiofreerhinecliff.org.
Yeah, I think she did.
Good.
Yeah.
Some people don't. They're like, I couldn't get you.
But anyway, back to the 4 lanes
Yeah,
thing. It's
please.
the 4 lane. I think that was a WPA project back in the 30s, if I'm not
I've heard that,
mistaken.
but I don't know.
I don't know. I've never really done any research on it, but it's the south of Rhinebeck, where Route 9 branches out into 4 lanes, and it runs about, I don't know, two and a half,
4
3
miles.
miles. Yeah,
3 miles, yeah.
yeah.
It's
And then it necks back down into 2 lanes. And
Yeah, it
there's
surely
really-
is short.
there's no logical reason why that would have done that in that time frame. It's not like it's Los Angeles and there was traffic congestion on a 2-lane road. So
right.
but we never really gave it much thought. It was just always that way, and it was concrete. It was a concrete road. It wasn't asphalt. So it was a fairly costly thing at the time to put in, and I heard later on that was part of FDR's project to get people to back to work after the Depression, and that would make a lot of sense,
That happened. It was before your time.
Oh yeah, that was
Before.
that was there long before me,
Yeah.
if you can
There it
believe
is
that.
after
Yeah.
FDR.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little bit after FDR.
Well,
Not too
FDR has a
much.
thing. It doesn't happen for 40, 50 years. All of a sudden,
That's nowadays.
Oh, yeah, things happened faster back then.
Yeah,
I think so.
yeah, it seemed like it. Maybe
Yeah.
not.
And so did you live there your entire youth?
Yes, I did. Yep.
Huh.
Same house.
Wow. And
Yeah.
graduated Rhinebeck High in like 1976 or
76. Yeah.
thereabouts.
Yep.
Nice. And what are you guys looking at me for? And Chantal and Leslie, you graduated somewhere else.
I graduated in 1981.
And Leslie?
98.
Youngster.
98
From Rhinebeck.
From Rhinebeck. So 76 and 98, that's a good stretch.
Yeah.
And did you all have any of the same teachers?
Mr. Worrell.
Mr. Worrell is the common thread, it seems.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had him too.
All of you.
Yeah.
And what was his story?
He was the only male teacher that I remember in elementary school.
Oh, at elementary
He
level?
wore a turtleneck every day. He looked like he was from the 70s, didn't he?
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
In the
Yeah.
even
well,
in the
80s.
summertime?
Sorry?
Even in the summertime?
Yeah, well, we weren't there in the summertime.
Yeah, I think he wore it all the
No,
time.
but I mean, you were there during a month like June.
Yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever.
he
Warm
always
months.
wore a turtleneck as far as I can remember.
It's funny, I don't remember anything about what he wore.
I don't remember much about him other than he had this longevity record.
Longevity record for
Yeah,
being
for
the
teaching.
longest
How
running
long was
teacher.
he there? Was there like 40
He was
years?
married to
42
Mrs.
years?
Worrell, right? The home ec teacher?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he I don't know how many years he was there, but he was one of the last tier 1s to go. That's what I remember.
What
yeah.
is a tier 1?
Tier 1, I forget when tier 1 ended and tier 2 started with in terms of retirement stuff. So there was a whole slew of them from when I was a kid who would have been tier 1. When they finally kind of started, New York State was giving better pensions to teachers.
Uh-huh.
So
Are they still?
I think they're still pretty good, but they're not like tier 1. And people who were pre-tier 1 were living on, the smell of a sausage. They were not making much at all.
Yeah.
The smell of the sausage.
I've never heard that before.
That's tough.
That's my mom.
That's lean living.
Yeah.
And Barry, you mentioned you retired a few years ago.
I retired. Yeah, I did 2 terms as the town of Rhinebeck highway superintendent with my very efficient and super smart secretary, Leslie Hill.
Oh, this one right here.
Oh, yeah.
The blonde with the fire in her
Yeah,
eyes.
we had quite an interview process, and we weeded out all the candidates down to Leslie. She was the only one that could do it all, and
We'll love that. And so you two worked together at the highway department.
closely
And you were,
in the same office.
yeah, and where was the office at that point in time?
It's right at the highway garage on Rhinecliff Road.
Okay. Now, is there a village highway department and a town highway department?
Yeah,
Which one were y'all on?
Town. We were the town in Rhinebeck.
And was there ever a rivalry between those two highway departments?
It's always a rivalry.
Yeah?
Yeah. There's really no overlap in services. We don't really do anything.
You stay out of the village.
Yeah, we just stay out of the village. Sometimes we assist, like with snow removal, if we have a big storm and we have to truck the snowbanks out, which does happen occasionally, not very often anymore. But
right.
But sometimes we have to actually get the snowbanks out because of the businesses in Rhinebeck have trouble with people parking and getting in and off the sidewalks.
Right.
So we assist in things like that, but we don't really have any overlap in services with the village.
Nice. And how long ago did you retire?
I retired December 31st, 2019, just before COVID hit.
So
excellent timing.
How's that been?
Wonderful.
Nice.
Absolutely wonderful.
What are you doing in your retirement?
I do a bunch of stuff. We do. We're working on our house. We do gardening. I have a metal shop in my garage. I have a woodworking shop in my basement. My wife and I do a lot of stuff. We go out, take our dogs. We have 2 Labradors, and we get them certified as therapy dogs. So we take them to the school. We were just at the school today.
Yeah.
And
the school at the elementary school, Chantal.
high school.
At the high school.
Go to. Once a week, usually on Fridays. And I wonder how I find time to do anything else. Actually, it's my schedule is as full as I need it to be. I have a lot of diverse interests, I guess, and that keeps me occupied.
And did you expect it would be that way when you were looking forward to retirement?
Yeah, I actually did.
Right.
Because my whole career has kind of been, every 10 years I reinvent myself. Not by my own choice, but I either get laid off from the airlines or I've had some other job come along. So yeah, I've been always on the move. I've never been one to sit still.
So you were the highway department for about 10 years?
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
And before that?
Before that, I had a tree and landscape business. Primarily did tree trimming and tree removal, and I did that from 2008. Full time. Actually, it was probably 2005. Really, I started the business till I got elected to office, I began office 2016.
Okay.
So.
And let me ask, how did you get into the tree trimming thing? Were you an arborist, or?
I grew up working on a farm, and I'd always
on Old Albany Post Road.
Yeah, I grew up on working at Southlands, which is a horse farm. So, we did a little bit of everything, and I always helped my father cutting firewood, and it's just one of those things you pick up by osmosis living out in the country, I guess.
Right.
And just something I always enjoyed doing. So I kind of parlayed that into a business. I did a few jobs after a big ice storm we had, and I said, I could make some real money at this doing it. It's hard work, but I enjoyed the work, enjoyed being outside, and
right.
I kind of just built up on it and took on a life of its own. So.
And what'd you do prior to that?
Prior to that, I was with the airlines. I was with American Airlines.
Okay.
So I took an early retirement. I turned 50 in 2008, and that was the earliest I could take a retirement and get medical benefits and travel benefits. I didn't get any pension from them.
Right.
But I had my own 401k with them. So.
And do you still get to sort of have discounted travel in American?
Yeah, we still get, we actually get free Space A travel.
What is it?
We travel free Space A. But
Space A.
That's kind of a hassle to do. I mean, especially now with a lot of people traveling. But it's, it's worthwhile if you have, in retirement, when you have the time to do it. It's great.
And what does that mean, Space A?
Well, it means you fly if there's a seat available on the airplane.
Okay.
You can't displace a revenue passenger, but if there's a seat not filled on that airplane, you can fly on it. So you can make a reservation, whatever, plan your trip out. And actually, we do it not often, but maybe once every couple of years. We go to the West Coast. My wife is from California, and we have some relatives out there.
Nice.
So, we fly. And it's easy now. Now that I'm retired, we're both retired. I mean, we don't have any constraints on that, so we have a lot of flexibility in terms of when we travel and if we get bumped, you'd stay overnight somewhere. And
Right. So there's a chance with Space A, you show up to the airport, they said, oh yeah, come on, we'll get you on.
Yeah.
And then they get paying customers, and they're like, sorry.
yeah, or a flight cancels and they have to put the revenue passengers from the earlier flight onto the flight you were supposed to be on, so you
Right.
get bumped. Yeah, there's no guarantees by any means, but
No, but it's
Yeah.
free.
But it's
yeah, you
free.
can't beat the
Yeah.
price, right? So, I mean, we did a trip to Tahiti, and we flew Space A to L.A., and then we flew Air Tahiti from L.A. down to Papeete. And we didn't fly Space A on them, but we fly discounted rate.
Right.
Former airline employee. So yeah, it has its advantages. I mean, it's really there's some real advantages to it, but you have to be able to tolerate the uncertainty, I guess.
Yeah. Huh. And you're good at tolerating uncertainty?
Yeah, for the most part.
Uh-huh.
As long as you can plan your schedule accordingly. If you build in enough buffer to be able to do that, it works. If you have something you got to be there for, then it's not as good.
And have you always been good at tolerating uncertainty, or has that come to you later on in life?
I think it's come later on in life.
What do you reckon?
Probably the closer I got to retirement.
I think you've always been cool, Barry.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get wound up over most things.
I
I'm
like
pretty,
this definition of cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
Leslie
very
Hill's
cool.
working out
We're
there.
chill.
yeah.
That's all right.
I try not to sweat the little stuff.
Right.
There's too many big things that can happen that are really important in your life.
Right.
The little stuff doesn't matter.
Right. Little stuff like getting bumped from a flight.
Yeah,
Just
so
spend the
what?
night.
So you stay overnight, you get a hotel room,
Yeah.
or worst case, you sleep in the airport. I've done that many times, as a pilot. Slept in the pilot's lounge, and,
Right.
it sucks, but
And was that a good gig, being a pilot?
yeah, I enjoyed it. It was, the job stability wasn't great. TWA was kind of on the ropes when I went to work for them economically.
Right.
And, and then American bought us, and we all moved over to American. And we thought we were out of the woods, and we were for a couple of years. And then, the economy took a downturn, 2007, 2008. So I thought that was a good time to get out and do something else,
Right. But you were living here
Yeah.
and based. What was your home airport?
Mostly, it depended on the equipment I was on. When I retired, I was on the MD-80, which is a DC-9. So we flew pretty much evenly out of LaGuardia and Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
And, depending on what route I was flying, that determined what airport I was going to work. I actually preferred going to LaGuardia just because it was a little bit easier drive. And,
Right.
if I could time it early in the morning and get there, 6 o'clock in the morning, you didn't have much traffic. It was a pretty easy drive.
Like that.
Yeah.
And Chantal, Barry asked you when you guys met each other again just now, like, are you still teaching or are you retired?
I'm
Right?
still teaching.
How
Yep.
many years before you retire?
I have, I think 3.
Uh-huh.
I may go longer.
3 before you can retire.
Yeah. I mean, I could retire now, but I'd rather get 30 years in. It's kind of been,
So you've got 27 in and...
Yep.
Huh.
Yeah.
And what happens at 30? Do you get like a full...
your pension's slightly better.
Mm-hmm.
But even if at 29 it was the same as 30, I would probably stay till 30 just to hit the even number. And what? I know that makes no sense.
Yeah.
But,
It does make
Is
sense.
there any chance you would stay on beyond that?
yeah,
Right.
possibly.
And for people who don't know, Chantal teaches 5th grade at Chancellor Livingston Elementary
Yeah,
here in beautiful Rhinebeck, New York.
yeah.
How long have you been doing that?
I've been there 25 or 26 years, and I taught 2 years down at Van Wyck in Wappingers before that.
Uh-huh.
So
And do those 2 years count towards your pension here?
yeah, because it was a public school. I worked
Okay.
in some private schools before that in residential treatment centers.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I had a class a few years ago that was one of the most enjoyable years of teaching I've ever had. And I think I always saw it as a trajectory that it gets kind of harder as you get older because you run out of patience sometimes or something like that. And that's turned out to not be true at all. I think I might have sometimes looked at older teachers and thought that because they'd be like, kids aren't like they used to be.
I remember.
Yeah, I remember when they did their homework. So
in your
I still have great classes.
Are kids not like they used to be?
They're very different in some ways, but they're still kids. I was talking to somebody today saying that I'm sometimes surprised at how much they're exposed to because
Such
of
as?
TikTok and
Oh, right.
YouTube and things like that. I think kids get onto things maybe that they couldn't get on before.
Right.
So sometimes you'll hear somebody make a comment that sounds like something somebody would say in middle school or high school. I mean, it's not all the time, but it would have been so unusual 10 years ago.
Right. Unless they got it from a big brother or sister.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, somebody says nuts or balls and everybody's like, hee hee hee. But that's been forever.
Worked on me.
30 years of laughing at nuts and balls.
Yeah.
But now things sometimes will be, I don't know, a little more risque or a little, just something you'd be surprised a 10 or 11-year-old would say.
Right. Well, it's nice to hear that you would conceivably stay beyond the point when you could retire with full benefits.
Yeah.
Because it makes me think that you really enjoy your job.
Yeah, I do. I really do like it.
And at some point you must have thought like, oh, I'm 60, I could retire.
Yeah.
Did you just sort of think, I don't know, I love what I do. Why
Yeah,
would I ever-"
absolutely. I'm definitely not ready to not be working as a teacher. I think I'll know when the time comes.
Right.
I hope I do. I hope they're not pushing me out. Like, the time
Well,
is now.
They could. I mean, teachers do get pushed out, right? Sometimes.
I think sometimes, but I think you have to mess up more to get pushed out than.
Right.
It really depends on the state and the area and all of that. But I mean, it's a district I really love a lot. I'm actually teaching in the same room I was in 5th grade in,
Oh my God.
which is
wow.
bizarre. Yeah,
That's
What
wild.
did you have for 5th grade?
I had Mrs. Russell.
I had Mrs. Russell.
You did too? She was a kindergarten teacher at
scared
one
me.
point, but then she was, yeah.
She taught math, I think, when I was in 2nd grade.
I went to school with Eric Russell,
Okay.
who was the second youngest of the Russell boys.
Eric was the big guy, right?
Yeah, and I had Mrs. Siglock, and there was 2 kindergarten teachers. It was Mrs. Russell and Mrs. Siglock, and I
Okay.
had Mrs. Siglock.
Dot Russell.
Yeah.
And Eric was the bartender at Bob's Tavern.
Yes, he was.
For years and years. We're Market Street,
Yeah.
We should definitely talk about
Bob's Tavern.
Oh, let's talk about Bob's Tavern.
Yeah, let's you guys talk about Bob's Tavern.
I was never allowed in. My dad said stay away. I think there was like tinted glass. Was there tinted glass?
It seemed darkish or shuttered or
That was part of the ambiance. Yeah, the darkness, the sticky floors,
the sweet, sweet smell of
spilled-
cigarettes.
spilled beer and cigarettes. Yeah,
Shuffleboard.
Bob's Tavern was Bob Langhand's, owned by Bob Langhand's. And I went to school with his daughter, too, Linda. She was in my class. And I remember going in there. We would go in there. Back then, the drinking age was 18.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know when it changed in New York State. But in 1976, it was still 18.
Right.
So we would get in there, at 17 with
Probably
our,
around
with our
83 or
fake
something.
IDs.
Right.
I had put a disclaimer on here. The statute of limitations is up on this, but
Yeah.
to get a fake ID, all you had to do is in the back of Rolling Stone, get the New York, you fill the thing out and they send you New York State official ID and they send you some lamination paper and you go over to Woolworths in Kingston in the photo booth, get your picture taken, cut the picture out, stick it on and laminate it. And it says official New York State ID. Who could dispute that?
Who could? Wait, so Woolworths in Kingston was the closest sort of photo mat?
That was the only one I remember. Yeah, there were probably more, but there was a photo mat over there.
And where was it in Kingston?
I think it was where the social services is now, isn't it? Yeah, I
have
believe
no
it
memory of
was where the Ulster County Social Services buildings are.
Did you all travel to Kingston when you were younger around here?
I don't think I did. Maybe the mall when I was after 8 or 9.
Yeah. There was no mall when I was little, but there was Montgomery Wards, and My parents used to take us shopping, and they would park us in the TV department, and we would all sit and watch TV. And I mean, we were never allowed to watch TV, so this was like the biggest thing. And it was color.
So they knew you weren't going anywhere.
Oh yeah,
That must have been a strategy because my
there were
parents
other kids
did
there
that
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think a lot of parents did.
Yeah, my mother would sit me down and say, "Stay here, watch TV. I got to go do this and that."
Yeah.
And then I'd just sit there and watch TV.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
I went with my mom. I remember going with her to like beauty salons, and all I wanted was to be able to sit under that like bee
Yeah, remember those?
warm air. And once in a while, the ladies who ran the salon would say, "All right, go ahead, Normie can sit under the swirling vortex."
Did
Yes.
it expand your mind? What did those things do?
I'm not sure, but probably
Supposed to
just
dry your
that.
hair, but
Yeah, it's supposed to dry your hair.
did you ever get in Bob's Tavern?
No.
You never did.
It was gone by the time I was able to.
Okay. I was
Much
just
to my
curious.
dismay.
And
I
what?
think there was like bar fights there.
Oh yeah, there was.
I wanted
always
to be
bar
in there
fights.
just big time.
Well,
But I was a kid.
Who went there that was getting in bar fights?
All the
Very-
locals. But then during
Sorry.
like Fair Week, no, I wasn't a fighter. But during Fair Week, all the carnies would come in. That was the week to stay out of the tavern. Was
You're
the
still
week
allowed
that
to say carnies at this point. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's allowed anymore.
the
Carnival workers.
Transient employees of Reithofer's,
The
what do they
carnival.
call it? Reithofer's Entertainment.
Yeah,
They were a rough bunch.
I think we can say Carney's here because it's internet radio.
Yeah. But they were a tough bunch of.
And what would happen? Were there stories about the carnies like stirring up?
Oh,
shit
you
when
wouldn't
they
want to
came town?
be in town.
Yeah, they were just
How come, Chantal?
Well, because they would come in and they would get ripped, and they didn't live there. So, and then you'd have locals, all like kind of turf stuff, and then somebody would say the wrong thing, or right? Wasn't I mean,
Yeah.
it was.
One thing
I'm sure
led
there
to
were some
another.
people
Yeah.
looking for fights on occasion, but
Yeah. And,
but
you
then
know.
actually, circling back to Bob Kerwood, I think the village of Rhinebeck asked him to keep Foster's open at the fair, so that they wouldn't come into town anymore, because it would prevent fights.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, I think he used to close down Fair Week anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
But
it
then
was
he would keep the bar open late at
Right.
the fairgrounds.
fair outpost of
Yeah.
Foster's.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a favorite stop of mine
Is it?
when I'm there. Not after hours though.
Yeah.
And did you start any fights in these places?
No,
Leslie
I did not,
Hill?
Norm.
I'm
No
surprised.
fights.
Are you gonna
Maybe in the
ask-
hotel.
I'm
I
gonna
was
ask
in
again.
one fight at the Rhinecliff Hotel, but it had nothing to do with me.
Could we get a
It
light
was
to
just a
put in
brawl
Leslie's eyes?
that broke out, and I remember getting pushed on the pool table. Someone's drink spilled on me.
Wow.
And that was about it. I had nothing to do with it. I was just an innocent bystander.
Really?
What do you think prompted the brawl?
The rumor at the time while it was happening was that a guy had slapped a woman,
Mm.
or a boy really had slapped a girl. But the girl really, she was tough. Like I don't think that's really exactly what happened.
Sorry, that's me.
But,
Oh,
but that's how
so-
it started. I do remember another fun fight though. Like a brawl also broke out when Mike Nickerson worked behind the bar. He was
Oh,
on
okay.
crutches, and I remember him coming out with his crutches to try to break up this fight.
At the Rhinecliff?
Yeah.
Now, was Herc involved in this fight?
No, Herc was an innocent.
Herc was an innocent.
was
just,
always an
just
innocent.
like you were an innocent.
Herc was an
That's right.
institution down there.
Who is Herc? It's short for Hercules.
Hercules. His
Yeah,
mom,
it
his
was
mom
short for
nicknamed
Hercules.
him Hercules because
Yeah.
he was such a scrawny guy.
His name was Patrick Loftus. He lived right up here on Schatzel, almost across
Loftus.
from.
There's a Loftus Road.
Yeah, almost across from you. Almost across from the Morton Library. A couple houses up on the right. And he had an older brother, Chris. And he was just one of the colorful characters of Rhinecliff. And
Was he older than y'all?
yeah, but he was in my grade.
Okay.
He passed
it-
through. We
was he a
passed.
Vietnam
we passed
vet, I
each
think?
other briefly.
You mean you passed?
He wasn't- He wasn't there long.
Right. And where did he go to? This guy Herc.
He went in the Marines. Went to Vietnam. Came back. I want to say like maybe 75. He came back. And then he just kind of bumped around Rhinebeck, working odd jobs, labor jobs, carpentry, whatever he could find, roofing.
Right.
And he was a nice enough guy.
He was,
like
I always got along. He was
Yeah.
a really nice guy. I always got along great with him. You know, you'd see him hitchhiking. I'd pick him up hitchhiking, give him a ride.
Right.
And then
He helped me move one year when no one else would.
Really?
He moved my entire, like, well, it was like a one-room
Yeah.
situation
Still.
for, like, a case of beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a
A
nice
really
person.
good-hearted guy,
Mhm.
and he wasn't hard to get along with. He just, you know, he had a rough life growing up, and he was
And
just.
then
a character.
Vietnam. Yeah.
Do you know what happened to Herc?
I heard he died. Did he have cancer?
I know. Well, I think he did have cancer at one point, but he went in